"Don't start anything tonight," she said, then pulled her ex aside for a private catch-up and told me to find my own table. I found one at home. I left the restaurant, packed my things, and moved out. When she got home 3 hours later, the apartment was empty. My note: "Didn't start anything, just finished it." Hey viewers, before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if you want more stories like this. Thanks. You know that feeling when you realize you're not the main character in your own relationship? I'd been fighting that feeling for 2 years with Sarah. She had a way of making me feel small, like my need for basic respect was actually insecurity. If I asked who she was texting late at night, I was controlling. If I asked why she canceled our plans to help a friend, I was needy. For 2 years, I walked on eggshells trying to be the cool, secure boyfriend she claimed she wanted. It all came to a head last Friday. It was supposed to be a celebration, my promotion. I booked a table at Luce's, that impossible to get into Italian place downtown. I was wearing a new suit. She looked stunning in a red dress I bought her. For the first 10 minutes, everything was perfect. Then we reached the hostess stand. Sarah Miller. I felt her entire body tense beside me. I followed her gaze and saw a guy stepping out of the bar area. Tall, stubble, leather jacket over a t-shirt. Mark, her ex. The one she'd described as toxic but intense. The one she'd cried over a month before we met. Her face didn't look like someone seeing a toxic ex. She lit up. It was a brightness I hadn't seen directed at me in months. "Oh my God," she breathed, stepping away from me. He grinned. That lazy, arrogant smirk of a guy who knows he still has hooks in someone. "Look at you, still killing it in red." He didn't even look at me. I was invisible. A prop. I stepped forward and extended my hand, trying to assert some presence. "I'm David, Sarah's boyfriend." Mark barely flicked his eyes toward me. He didn't take my hand. He just looked back at Sarah and laughed. "Boyfriend, right? Good for you, Sarah. Safe choice." The disrespect was so loud it was deafening. He climbed up my neck. I opened my mouth to say something, to tell him to back off, to tell her we were leaving. But Sarah cut me off. She turned to me, her eyes hard and irritated, placing a flat hand against my chest, not affectionately, but to hold me back. "David, stop," she hissed. "Don't start anything tonight." "Start anything?" I asked, my voice rising. He just disrespected me to my face. "He's joking. That's just his sense of humor." "Don't be so sensitive," she snapped, then glanced back at Mark as if worried he might be offended by my existence. Lowering her voice, she added, "I haven't seen him in 3 years. I need to clear the air. It's important for my closure." "Closure? We're at dinner for my promotion." "Closure? We're at dinner for my promotion. It'll take 10 minutes, she said, waving her hand dismissively. She wasn't asking. She was telling. She turned her back to me, angling herself toward Mark. Over her shoulder, she tossed the grenade that killed our relationship. "Just go find us a table or something. Order me a glass of Pinot or something. Order me a glass of Pinot. I'll be there in a few minutes. Don't be weird about this." She grabbed Mark's arm, actually grabbed it, and guided him toward the patio doors. "Let's go outside. It's too loud in here." I stood there. The hostess was staring at me. The couple behind us was staring at me. I was a grown man in a crowded restaurant being told to sit in the corner like a scolded child while my girlfriend went on a mini date with her ex. "Sir, your table is ready. Shall I seat you?" I looked toward the patio doors. Through the glass, I could see them. She was laughing, her hand resting on his bicep. She looked alive. She looked exactly where she wanted to be. And in that moment, with a clarity that felt like ice water running through my veins, I understood. I wasn't her boyfriend. I was her placeholder, the safe harbor she docked in while waiting for the storm to pass. I turned back to the hostess. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I won't be needing the table." I walked out the front door. I didn't storm out. I didn't make a scene. I walked to my car with the calm precision of a bomb disposal technician. I checked the time. 7:15 p.m. If she was clearing the air with Mark, and judging by the way she touched his arm, 10 minutes was a lie. They'd have a drink, maybe 2. They'd reminisce. She'd lose track of time because she didn't respect mine. I estimated I had at least 2 hours, maybe 3, before she even thought to check her phone. I drove home in silence. No music, just the hum of the engine and a new plan forming in my head. When I walked into our apartment, I didn't feel sad. I felt efficient. I went straight to the bedroom. I didn't have time to move furniture, and I didn't want the couch anyway. We bought it together. It was tainted. I wanted only what was mine. I was going to execute an eraser. I pulled a box of heavy-duty black trash bags from under the sink. Rip. Open, fill. I cleared my side of the closet in 4 minutes. Suits, shirts, jeans. I didn't fold anything. I swept them straight off the hangers into the bags. The clatter of hangers knocking together was the only sound in the room. Rip. Open. Fill. I emptied the bathroom drawer. My razor. My cologne. My prescription meds. I left the toothpaste. I left the shared soap. I took only what kept me alive and made me who I am. Then I moved to the living room. This was the most satisfying part. I unplugged my PS5. I grabbed the switch. I packed my laptop. After that, I went to the router. I paid the internet bill. The account was in my name. I unplugged the modem and router and shoved them into my backpack. Petty, maybe. But if she wanted to communicate with her ex, she could use her own data. I opened the safe. Passport. Birth certificate. Watch collection. The emergency cash envelope. I was sweating now, moving like a blur. By 8:30 p.m., my car was packed floor to ceiling. The back seat was a mountain of black plastic bags. I went back inside for one final check. It didn't look like a normal move-out. It looked like a rupture. My side of the vanity was completely bare. The closet was a gaping hole of empty space beside her colorful dresses. The entertainment center was nothing but dangling wires where the consoles used to be. I slipped the spare key off my keyring and placed it on the kitchen counter. I looked around for paper and found a piece of junk mail, a credit card offer. I flipped it over and uncapped a Sharpie. I wanted to write a paragraph. I wanted to scream at her in ink. I wanted to list every time she made me feel small. Then I remembered the restaurant. I remembered her telling me, "Don't start anything." She wanted me quiet. Fine. I wrote 5 words. Didn't start anything. Just finished it. I left the note beside the key, walked out and locked the door. One last time. I got into my car, started the engine and pulled away. At 8:47 p.m., my phone lit up. Incoming call. Sarah. I didn't decline it. I didn't answer it. I flipped the switch on the side of my phone to silent and watched the screen glow for 30 seconds before it went dark. She was probably just getting back to the table, finding it empty, probably annoyed, probably assuming I was in the bathroom or sulking in the lobby. She had no idea she was dialing a ghost. I headed toward the highway. I didn't have a specific destination yet. Maybe a hotel. Maybe my brother's place 3 towns over. But I had never felt more at home than I did in that car, driving away from a woman who told me to wait my turn. My turn was over. I checked into a Holiday Inn about 20 minutes away. Not a luxury hotel. I wasn't celebrating. I was bunkering down. I ordered a pepperoni pizza, cracked open a beer from the minibar and sat on the bed. My phone lay face down on the nightstand, vibrating against the wood every few minutes. Easy. I didn't need to be in the apartment to know exactly how the timeline was unfolding. I could reconstruct the entire scene just by listening to the voicemails later. Voicemail 1, 8:55 p.m. David, where are you? I'm back at the table. The waiter said you left. Stop being dramatic and come pick me up. It's not funny. Tone, annoyed. Entitled. She thinks I'm sitting in the parking lot teaching her a lesson. Voicemail 2, 9:15 p.m. Okay, seriously. Pick up the phone. I'm standing outside. Mark already left. He had to meet some friends. I'm not paying for an Uber when you drove us here. This is so childish. David, call me back. Tone, angry. Shifting blame. Mark already ditched her. Ironic. Voicemail 3, 9:48 p.m. David, I'm home. Why aren't the lights working? The Alexa isn't connecting. Pause, heavy breathing. Footsteps echoing on hardwood. David, where's the TV? Where's your computer? David, call me right now. You're scaring me. Reality starting to bleed and why. Voicemail 4, 9:52 p.m. Total breakdown. Sobs. I found the note. What do you mean finished it? You can't just leave. We live together. You took the router? Are you insane? Please just come home. We can talk about this. I'm sorry I was with Mark so long. Okay? I'm sorry. Just come back. I listened to that last one while chewing a slice of pizza. It was cold, detached curiosity. I didn't feel any pull to comfort her. I didn't feel guilty. It felt like watching a character in a movie. Realize the killer is already inside the house. Except in this movie, the killer was the consequences of her own actions. I powered my phone off completely. I slept like a baby. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and 30 texts, but the silence in that hotel room was the loudest, most peaceful thing I'd ever heard. I wasn't waiting for her approval. I wasn't questioning whether I was enough. I was free. The fallout started fast. When someone like Sarah, someone who depends on validation and financial safety nets, loses their footing, they don't self-reflect. They recruit allies. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Jessica, Sarah's best friend. Jessica had always merely tolerated me, treating me like a convenient accessory that came with Sarah. I answered. I wanted to hear the spin. "You are a piece of shit, David." Jessica spat before I could even say hello. "Hello to you too, Jessica. She is a wreck. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. How could you just abandon her like that? Over a 5-minute conversation with an old friend. You're insecure, controlling, and honestly terrifying. Who clears out an apartment in 3 hours? Someone who doesn't want to stay where he isn't respected," I replied calmly. "Respected? She told you to grab a table. She was trying to manage a delicate situation with an ex and you threw a tantrum." "Jessica," I cut in, my voice flat. "She didn't tell me to grab a table. She told me not to start anything. She told me to sit alone while she drank with the guy she used to sleep with on the night we were celebrating my promotion. She prioritized his ego over my dignity. She told me to go away, so I went away. It was a mistake." "It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And tell her not to worry about the rent. I paid through the end of the month. She has 28 days to figure out how to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the city on a receptionist's salary. Or maybe she can ask Mark to move in." I hung up and blocked Jessica. As for Mark, that was the sweetest accidental justice of all. I found out later through a mutual friend what happened with the so-called savior. Once I was gone, Sarah immediately tried to pivot to him. She texted him, probably looking for a shoulder to cry on, maybe hoping fate had cleared a path for them to be together. Mark left her on red, necked. He was just passing through town, bored, and spotted an old flame he could use for an ego boost. Once he realized she came with baggage, a fresh breakup, a missing boyfriend, and high emotional needs, he disappeared. He blocked her on Instagram. 3 days after the restaurant incident, she burned her castle to the ground for a guy who wouldn't even buy her a second drink. Then came the financial reality check. I made good money. I covered 70% of our bills. Sarah's salary barely handled her car payment, student loans, and shopping habits. Without my portion of the rent, without me paying for groceries, Wi-Fi, and utilities, the math didn't add up. She tried to stay in the apartment. I kept my distance, communicating only by email about the lease. I informed the landlord I was vacating. 3 weeks later, I received an automated email from the leasing office. The full rent hadn't been paid. Sarah sent me one email during that time. No subject line. "I can't afford this place alone. You promised to take care of me. How can you be this cruel?" I didn't respond. I wasn't being cruel. I was simply no longer subsidizing a life that didn't include me. She had to break the lease. She lost her security deposit. The last I heard, she moved back in with her parents. The same parents she constantly complained were suffocating and toxic. She was 30 years old, sleeping in her childhood twin bed, surrounded by boxes of clothes with no closet space for them. The placeholder was gone, and without the placeholder, the entire structure collapsed. 4 months passed. My life quieted in the best possible way. I found a new place, a smaller loft, closer to the office, but entirely mine. No shared aesthetic, no walking on eggshells. I thrived in my new role at work, free from the constant text anxiety that used to consume my afternoons. I was sleeping better. I looked better. I hadn't heard from Sarah since the email about the rent. I assumed she had faded back into the background of her hometown, another what-if story people tell at bars. Then she ambushed me. It was a Tuesday around 8 a.m. I was at the coffee shop near my office, waiting for a pour-over. I was checking emails on my phone, feeling good in a tailored coat I'd bought with money I wasn't spending on her credit card debt. "David." The voice was familiar but thinner, stripped of the sharpness it once had. I turned around. Sarah stood there. She looked diminished. That's the only word for it. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked tired, not stayed up too late tired. Deeply tired. The kind of tired that comes from living in your childhood bedroom and arguing with your mother about laundry at 30. "Sarah," I said, my tone neutral and professional, like greeting a vendor whose contract I had canceled. "Can we talk?" she asked, her eyes flicking around the busy shop. "Just 5 minutes, please." I checked my watch. "I have to get to work." "David, please," she whispered, her voice cracking. I need to see you. I need to explain." I looked at her. I didn't feel the anger I thought I would. I didn't feel the love I once believed I couldn't survive without. I just felt mildly inconvenienced. "You can walk me to my building," I said. "You have 3 minutes." We stepped onto the sidewalk. The morning air was crisp. She struggled to match my pace. "I messed up," she blurted out. "I know I did. Mark was nothing. He was just a ghost from the past, and I got caught up in the moment. He stopped replying to me days after you left. It was stupid. I threw away everything for nothing." "I know," I said, keeping my eyes straight ahead. "I miss you, David," she said, reaching for my arm. I sidestepped smoothly without breaking stride. Her hand dropped back to her side. "I miss us," she continued, desperation seeping into her voice. "I miss our home. My parents. It's a nightmare. I'm sleeping in a twin bed. I miss talking to you. I miss my best friend." I stopped. We were a block from my office. I turned to face her. "You don't miss me, Sarah," I said calmly, matter of fact. "You miss the apartment. You miss the security. You miss having someone to project your insecurities onto so you don't have to face them yourself. You miss the placeholder." She flinched. "That's not fair. I loved you. You told me to sit alone in a restaurant while you flirted with another man." I reminded her. "That isn't love. That's management. You were managing me, and I resigned." "What?" She began to cry. Not the manipulative tears from before. These were different. This was the realization that her old tactics were colliding with a brick wall. "Can't we just start over?" she pleaded. "Please, just coffee. Just a drink. Let me prove I can be better. Let's start fresh." I looked at her. Really looked at her for the last time. I saw the regret, yes. But I also saw the entitlement still lurking underneath. She still believed my dignity was negotiable. I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. "Start over," I repeated. I leaned in slightly, delivering the final echo of the night that changed everything. "Sarah, you were the one who told me not to start anything. You wanted me to stay in my lane, keep quiet, and not make a scene, so I'm doing exactly what you asked." "David, I'm not starting anything," I said firmly. "I'm finished." I turned and walked toward the glass doors of my office building. I didn't look back. I didn't check whether she was still standing there. I entered the lobby, swiped my badge, and stepped into the elevator. As the doors slid closed, sealing off the street from view, I let out a long breath. I had finally found my table, and it was exactly where I wanted it to be. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story?